On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
My property value was going up in the community that I live in.
So right, helping the Black community, but that's what we're saying, and that's what I'm saying. Helping the Black community helps the community.
That's what Hannibal was saying earlier. Right, so, like, while you can,
go to Anton next.
While you can, I get where you're coming from, Lauren. At first, I thought you were saying something different. But I thought you were saying something different at first, but I get where you're saying, like, doing for the Black community does positively affect the community at large as it relates to everybody else.
It's not saying that just because I'm focusing on the Black community means I am neglecting the rest of the communities altogether. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, even if you focus solely on the Black community, the same thing you're saying will be true, and that's what Hannibal was saying earlier. So, Lauren, I was ready to get you, but
what?
I completely understand what you're saying. You're right. Yeah.
The Black community is the lowest totem pole right now as far as our culture because we continue to assimilate. We continue not to focus on our community. We let gentrification happen. When JR came to Nashville, I specifically took him to a particular block in Nashville, out in North Nashville, where it was being gentrified, but Black businesses, millionaires in the Black community in Nashville decided to buy the block back. So what we decided to do is stop gentrification in our neighborhood that was been historically Black. They're pushing the older Black generations out, selling their house that they've lived in for 30 years. Older people don't know that. So they're getting $300,000 for the house is about to be sold for 1.5. So what Black people decided to do was buy the block back. So we created all kind of Black businesses employing Black people. We have, like I said, Willie B, Slim and Huskies, Minerva. We have a whole lot of Black businesses employing Black people. When Black folks do good, when culture does good, it in essence helps the community. It takes people off welfare. It gives people essence to work. It takes dads off child support or less than child support because now people are able to get jobs. So it helps the community as a whole. And for us to say that that's not important as a community, then it's a slap in the face for Black Wall Street. It's a complete slap in the face to having a thriving Black community full of doctors and lawyers and businesses. And the one reason why it burned up, because white America and America knew once Black people start striving, then we will have power. The essence of power and not getting to us is dividing us. Preservation of self is not division and it's not prejudice. And I'm still a Christian for loving my people.
Yep.
And I ain't never said I hated anyone. But what I said is important that we strive. As a Black woman raising a Black little girl, she's going to know that she's Black and she's going to be proud. She has other friends, but we got to preserve ourselves. Every single community, the Mexican community, there's not a city in the world that doesn't have an Asian town, a Mexican town, Laotian. There is not one city. And it's not saying that they hating on us and they hate us or we hate them, but they understand community. They understand knowing and rocking with themselves, making themselves better. It will, in essence, give them power where they don't have to ask for handouts from white people.
Yep, Courtney, I absolutely agree with you.
We're not going to mess up Black Wall Street and how important that was in our legacy in Tulsa. They burned us up for a reason. If Black community or us getting together and being stronger wasn't important, then they wouldn't be trying to divide us. And there's a reason why.
Well, wait,
and then the more that we let and welcome and lay out the red carpet for everyone else to be welcome into our things as Black people, the more that it gets watered down. Like Courtney was saying earlier, in the earlier times, decades ago, people always want to talk about those times. They want to say, well, back then Black marriage rates were higher. Back then, this and this and that. The thing about it is the reason that back then things were the way they were is because people were, for the most part, on one accord. They understood who was trying to come in and mess up the neighborhood. They understood the people that they couldn't trust necessarily. They understood all of these things. And the more that we be like, ooh, Black people, we made it. Let's just everyone get together. That is part of the plan. For us to get real comfortable right now is a turning point. If we get super comfortable right now and say, oh, we made it, there was a Black president, da, 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 da. Guess what's going to happen? The same thing that happened in the past. So to stop that from happening, people like us in our generation really need to say no. We really need to get on it right now. We really need to stick together now, because too many people are getting comfortable and acting like things aren't still the same as they were decades ago, but just in a different format.
So I'm coming from a community where there is a very strong Black community with Black businesses where they support, but they also contribute to the community by way of serving on community boards, by just contribute. They have their own scholarship funds, which supports students that are just not Black. So I'm saying that you can focus on both at the same time, and it's not a one or the other, because you can have a strong Black community, support Black businesses, which I do. However, you can still have a focus on improving or contributing to the community as a whole. I don't think that you have to isolate one and forget the other, because I've seen it done here where I live, where you have a very thriving, vibrant Black community of really successful Black entrepreneurs that are also really active in the community, that are buying buildings, that are renting them out, renting space out to future business owners that are not just Black. They're white, they're Hispanic. So that's the point I'm trying to make, is that you can focus on both at the same time, and you're not diminishing the value of the Black community, because both of you all are right. There's been major contributions historically and currently that Black people are contributing to the community, but we can also contribute to the community as a whole, because there are other groups or other communities that may not have the power that we do. We just talked about strength in numbers last week with like the LGBTQ community and how there's strength in numbers. So, and for my logic, if we focus on community as a whole, we will be operating more like strength in numbers, right? If we come together, but understanding we can still have whatever silo with whatever community you associate yourself with.
Which communities, Lauren, do you think have less power than us that we could help?
Well, I'm speaking in terms of the community where I'm coming from. There's a Hispanic population where they're very tight knit, but there's not a lot of power behind it. So that's when they tap into the Black community. They tap into the other communities around them to then, get what they need from their environment. Or whatever.
Okay, so you're talking about on a micro level, like people that you've seen. You're not talking about overarching.
Yeah, all I can do is talk about what I know in terms of national US data, but from where I'm coming from, and the Black community is thriving, and it's like, okay, I'm building here, so once this is good, I can come over here and help this community, or I can contribute my time over here. It's been done before.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that on a more micro level, like in terms of things you've seen in your own, life or whatever.
Experience, because I've done it myself.
Right, in your own life, your own experience.
By me buying properties, I'm not only adding to the statistics of Black homeowners, but I'm also contributing to society, like to the community as a whole. My property was going up in the community that I live in. So
right,
I get
the Black
what you're
community,
saying.
but that's what we're saying, and that's what I'm saying. Helping the Black community helps the community.
That's what Hannibal was saying earlier. Right, so, while you can,
go to Anton next.
While you can. I get where you're coming from, Lauren. At first, I thought you were saying something different. I thought you were saying something different at first, but I get where you're saying, like, doing for the Black community does positively affect the community at large as it relates to everybody else.
It's not saying that just because I'm focusing on the Black community means I am neglecting the rest of the communities altogether. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, even if you focus solely on the Black community, the same thing you're saying will be true, and that's what Hannibal was saying earlier. So, Lauren, I was ready to get you, but
what?
I completely understand what you're saying. You're right. Yeah.